Today I'm joined by Mark Bidewell. Mark is the managing director at Made by Bison, who help growth-minded businesses attract new, loyal and profitable clients, create brands that stand out in a crowded space and achieve business growth objectives. So welcome, Mark.
Hi, Simon. Nice to see you. And thanks for that lead in. That's made it a little easier for me. So thank you very much.
Great. Well, look, I've given a bit of an overview of what Made by Bison do there in terms of, attracting loyal customers, creating brands. But tell us a bit more about Made by Bison and what you actually do.
So we provide two services. We offer a full end-to-end service from discovery through to creation to implementation. So coming up with new ideas, creating new brands and delivering them through clients, including organically here at Bison, producing graphics for vehicles, offices, signage, as well as wonderfully tactile pieces like, actually got one here, like this white ink printed greetings card here. So our challenge or our client's challenge is helping them stand out in crowded market space. And by doing that consistently helps them really get the edge. So that's what we do.
And then let's focus on that before we get into some other things. But in today's market is really crowded. There's a lot of competition out there, not just for not necessarily competition in the same sector, but competition for a limited amount of money or cash flow. So how important is it, Mark, for businesses to stand out?
Massive. I think every industry and environment's a crowded space now, and not just standing out, but building and maintaining trust is important too. And we can't help it. We do prejudge things, and it could be a spelling mistake, it could be inconsistencies in the look and feel of the message or the brand. Being consistent and persistent is really important. So by us identifying with our clients every touch point on the journey, putting them all together and making sure that they're relevant with where they sit in their market and making sure that they're delivered consistently, and that we build in things to make sure that moving forwards that's maintained is really important.
And because when we think about the top brands, we all know when we name a brand that stands for something, whether it be Nike or McDonald's or any of those type of things, or even the luxury brands, Cartier, Rolex, all those sort of, we associate something with those brands, don't we? And that's really important when somebody sees a brand that they associate, because you use the words that they trust the brand there.
Sure.
That's massively important, isn't it? That people see a brand, they see consistency, and that brand tells the story that that company wants it to tell to their potential clients.
Yeah, absolutely. As well as keeping things simple. I think the big challenge people face is making things complicated, and there's enough noise out there. The difference that makes a difference actually is simplicity, and again being persistent and consistent. So when delivering the brand, it's much more effective to strip everything out that's not there. I think the saying is, if you throw a ball, someone catches it. If you throw several, they don't catch any. But we just want to add everything in. We want lots of colours, lots of noise, a phone number with the telephone symbol. I think we know by now you don't need to put the phone symbol.
Yeah.
And it's just everything becomes packed with so much that we just shut it out. And the art is actually delivering something where you see it and then you see it again, and then in quick succession, you have the competitive edge over other people who are just trying to force too much information in, and you start to warm to brands. Then you start to go, I've seen them somewhere, and that builds. So creating something that's relevant and delivering it across all the different channels. Omnipresence is the big thing at the moment, online, offline, from websites to social media to on the vehicles to in the office space to the email signature. Each of those is a missed opportunity to build on the brand if they're inconsistent or there's no message there.
No, absolutely, so important. So let's go back. Let's go back a step into how the business was sort of created and how you became involved in it. Because the business now, I think it's well, is it next year? It's coming up for 50 years old.
Yeah, so founded in 1976 by my dad, Les Bidewell, and his partner, Lionel Robinson. Bison, Bidewell and Robinson started above the Golden Boot in Gabriel's Hill. Back then it was known as Bison Pulp and Paper, and they were importing pulp and paper from all around the world, supplying the biggest publishers and printers in the UK. I joined the business at 16, and my first role was delivering paper to local businesses. I then sort of moved into a more sales role. But my epiphany actually was in the stationery shop when every now and then I'd walk into the shop and what we would call a walk-in customer, someone just coming in for a photocopy or some stationery, I'd get involved in a conversation, and that conversation would lead to a more positive outcome. They typically spend more than they originally planned, but they got more than they wanted, but they left with a smile on their face. And it was that defining moment that it was not about making a sale. It's about how we made people feel, which really resonated with me. And that's part of the sort of diversification journey we went onto. And we continue to evolve and get more, sort of dealing with customers direct, and rather than just selling, which has been great and something I'm very proud to have been part of, but rather than just selling container loads of white paper and not seeing it come to life, which is very transactional, actually on a much smaller scale to start with, but take white pieces of paper or coloured card and go through a creative journey that leads to an outcome someone wanted. And I was saying back then was, did the customer leave happier than they walked in? And actually today, in fact, it's our value of the week. It's client, we only succeed if our clients succeed. So, we are a profitable business and we're proud of that. But that is the byproduct of customer success, not the only reason we exist.
That's brilliant. And what I find really interesting about the business is that actually how it's evolved. How it's over time it's adapted and changed with with the current market and the market conditions. And look, if I can compare it to something like Amazon. Amazon started out something really different to what it is today. I
Yeah.
think it was the world's largest bookstore. Obviously what it does today is very different to what it does, what it did then. And your business has adapted and evolved. So what's is it? Have you done that through spotting opportunities in the market or challenges that you faced? What's really been the key driver of those adapting and changing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been two things. It's one, it's being in line with what we're passionate about, which is solving people's problems and being able to get that real-time feedback. Obviously, working with businesses and individuals to help them stand out, to grow their business, to create a new look and feel of the business, and to support the delivery of that, we get real-time feedback, and it's really fulfilling. Also, as we see people asking for the same things several times and us saying no or recommending someone, it doesn't make good business sense to keep doing that. And the answer is yes. What's the question? So if someone asks for it, we need to be able to invest and train, obviously, the capability in-house to do that, including our most recent deliveries in the last couple of weeks of our records investment in plant and technology. So it went from putting sort of photocopies onto print to then there was a print shop around the corner. We used to take them, get them to cut them for us to make them as leaflets to business cards, to then buying up another print business and bringing all of the plant and like shared knowledge sort of came in accelerated, to then we were printing and mounting onto boards, to then putting boards to fit to walls as signs, to then installing it. So we've got wider, but today we still make sure we're really clear if we're good at it or if we're not. So we will partner people if we're not, or just recommend someone rather than be a jack of all trades. And I think that's an important thing to differentiate, is the difference between diversification and just becoming a jack of all trades. So yeah, that's just an important thing.
Yeah, no, key point. I absolutely, yeah, key point. And look, I know, you've mentioned it, a number of times how important your customers are and your clients are to you. solving their problems. I know how important your team is and culture within the business. So tell us a little bit more about the Bison blueprint, because I know this is something that runs through everything that you do.
Yeah. So as I said earlier, there's two extremes. There's the one where we go from discovery all the way through to delivery. In fact, beyond delivery, there's maintain. So we might do a discovery workshop with a client. Then we then, from our findings, present ideas of rationale. We then work with them to deliver something through that would lead to them having digital assets they can use and printed assets that we or someone else would deliver for them. And then at the end of that, once that's been done, there's a process attached to making sure that that's maintained rather than it's a fad or a trend, if you like, and drops off, which can happen with so many things. So it's our four-step methodology is define, create, make, achieve. So start with the end in mind. What does good look like? We've got some great competitors out there. Our difference for us is our interest isn't in the output, it's in the outcome. So we print, we design, we do signage. But for us, one of our values is we only succeed if our customers succeed. Being rewarded for something that's not going to help them is not supporting the outcome, is supporting the output. And that might be keep the press busy or the studio going. And again, the profit's a byproduct for us. So by following that four-step methodology, it's obviously much deeper if someone's going to go for a full rebrand delivery piece with us to if someone just walks in for a set of business cards. But even if they walked in for a set of business cards, we would still at surface level, discover, define who are they, what do they do, what do they really need, create, obviously we'll create something if they're happy with it and that's validated, box ticked, then we would make and then make sure obviously it achieves what they want. One of the things we also have is it's on our website, it's on all of our proposals, is a total satisfaction guarantee. So actually it's black and white. The two extremes are we have clients that are really happy that they went with us and will testify and become one of our success stories, or we have a total satisfaction guarantee, and that's obviously validates our value and shows that it's true to the core of what we are.
I love that. And so for you, Mark, what what makes a successful business? What's required to make a successful business?
Um, it's a bit cliche, and I know in the old days everyone looked for profit, that one pillar, and then the new one is triple P, people, planet, profit. I think, a business rather than a charity is about profit, but it's not just profit. It's, for me personally, staff is bad language. It's team. We're a team. We win together, or I lose on my own. But they're the most important thing to me. I'm very proud. I've got people that have been here for over 10 years, nearly 15, and I call them friends, and I'm very proud to work alongside them. Team culture. We could have someone come in that could bring work that could double the size of the business. If it doesn't fit our culture, I'm not interested. So that profit pillar is nothing if it compromises the people. And sustainability, it's a big thing as well. I'm personally very bought into that. I feel very connected with the impact we're making on the planet. But I like the fact I'm in an industry which is demonized. Print, don't print, save the planet. Manufacture's a dirty word. But actually, if I and others can take on in their space the idea that we don't use it's different for me, we lean into it. And we've done that. We've won awards for sustainability and decarbonisation, where we're creative and resourceful, and we're parts of charities like Two Sides Love Paper Initiative, which myth busts and debunks the idea. Trees planted for paper specifically is growing in Europe massively each year, and yet it's seen that we're cutting down forests and it's a really unsustainable medium. Our energy is 100% renewable. During the summer, nearly all of it comes from our solar. We produce from responsibly sourced materials. We use plant-based inks, zero to landfill, minimal waste. And again, will invest in things, but we promote being creative and resourceful. And also, I'll just say really quickly on that piece, it's not about being righteous or demonizing. I think, and I learned this from B Corp actually about the different levels, and I actually added one. So there's climate curious, climate committed, and climate courageous. And generally, you find that people that are curious feel intimidated by what's there, so don't do anything or worry. And you might get at the courageous end people like all in their little circles, so that it's kind of very divided. I actually like the one as well, climate not interested, because wherever I or this company is on the ladder rungs, choice of words,
Yeah.
it's much better to be inspired by what's above to do more and pay it forward or down, if whichever way we look at it, by doing it. And then it made me realise wherever we were, whether it's committed or courageous, actually it's wasting time if we're spending it all in that area. It's much better getting around people that are not interested, as an example. Because if we are entrusted in people to create a new look and feel for the business, and we have an opportunity to say, there's two choices. This one, I know you're not interested in sustainability right now, but your stakeholders are or will be, and it might be in the future, and it won't cost you any more or very little. Why would you not do it? That's really empowering, because then we're trusted to do something that's not against what they want, but can help that. And then obviously, if they start seeing the results show up, they become curious from not interested. And then if that starts to go really well, they go from, curious to committed, and then so on. And it's not just obviously in sustainability, it can be in any space. But coming back to that original story of selling white paper by the container load, compared to doing that now, and adding to it that we celebrate the people we work with and they will validate it, that's really, really, really fulfilling and brings joy. So people, planet, profit, and those all together is it what makes work great, really great.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Your passion is showing through there, Mark, which is great. And look, you're the managing director of the business. So what what's your primary role in the business? As managing director, what's your primary role within the business?
Um, I mean, because we're a small company, I guess like a lot of these roles, they often mean a lot of the same and different. You've got managing directors that are hands-on still, and you've got managing directors which are obviously much more strategic. For me, mine's very customer centric and team centric, although I want to be doing more with my team and my team to be doing more customer centric, which they do, by the way. I mean, the vast majority is my team, but for what I do carry as customer centric roles, and I absolutely love, I want to bring people on a journey so that I can become more strategic, so that I can get involved with things. But if I'm not there, it doesn't impact the business. It's being involved for the sake or to help someone rather than being a constraint if not. But I said, it's a small growing business with great people, and I'm keen to work through that to be more on rather than in the business.
Like it, yeah, that's great. And so what would you say? Because I think you started in the business. I think when you were 16.
Yeah.
Um, you said you started from delivering sort of paper in sales, and now managing director. So what's been your biggest learning throughout that time? Where from working all that time in the business, and as you say now working more on the business, what would you say your biggest learning has been?
I think first of all, I'm not a victim. I'm not helpless. There isn't a villain.
Yeah,
I think ownership, extreme ownership, and gratitude are really great things. And two ears, one mouth. I think when I was younger, I spoke too much and I wasn't curious enough. And I think that's something that's really good to at the age of 47 to finally grasp. But also surrounding myself with the right people, my family, my peers, my team, and obviously a plug's going to go out to you, my wonderful business coach as well.
So okay, so there's some, by the way, some great learnings there to think about. If there was one thing that you could say to you could say to an 18-year-old you, what would you say? If you could go back and speak to yourself when you were 18, if there was one thing you could say to yourself, what would it be?
It would be that. It would be curious, not certain. I think it's really important. I think when I joined the family business, I thought I knew everything. It was my way. I didn't, and I don't, and I never will. And I think um, we obviously live lean here in a gamified way rather than Six Sigma. But adopting that continuous improvement mindset opens the doors to possibility rather than a limited belief by thinking you know everything. And as said, for us, we have a daily kata. We meet on the shop floor. We do two things at the start of that. We talk about something we're all grateful for, and we all share an example of word for the week, which is one of our Bison 7. So this week is client. We only succeed if our clients succeed. So we'll give an example of that. And I think it's that because that's so empowering and it's so good for culture, if obviously of authentic origins, because there's a big difference between someone reading and doing something and actually feeling, believing, and delivering it. So for us, that's been the glue for the business, and I've no regrets. But if with the benefit of hindsight, that's what I would do differently this time: is just be more curious and shut up.
Look, Mark, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about your business and but also your journey as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Really appreciate the time. Thank you, Simon.